How's it going, everybody? Sorry. I was curious about something. I was thinking about this guy, like this YouTuber. Now, his name's Sensitive Society, and he was giving his take on this lady, I guess about this LGBT flag, and she replaced the American flag with the LGBT flag, and she was doing like a pledge of allegiance to the LGBT flag, and he was saying how ridiculous it was. And, he didn't have any prejudice against her. He just said, like, don't make an ideology your identity, So don't make this one thing your identity, And this could be for anything. But I was thinking to myself about like the idea of like immigrants, like how conservative they can be, because he came off as pretty conservative to me. And and these type of groups, to me, it always seemed to be to me that these immigrant groups, they like are they tend to be like people who integrate and want to integrate into this white society very fast, and they hold views similar to them. Now, one thing I did notice is that immigrants, like first generation immigrants, they tend to be very conservative, and it made me think about, and they turn out to be conservative when they move from their country, which could be a poor quality country, and they move to this country, which might be a better quality for immigrants, especially. I'm not saying that regular citizens don't get like benefits and stuff like that. People who need it, they can't go on government aid. But I do think that this American government, does help out immigrants compared to the countries they left. Like, for instance, the corruption in some of them countries from Africa. I don't think they're helping out the extremely poor with like government aid or government assistance, or even basic shelter. I don't think in parts of Mexico that their government is especially with like stuff like the cartel and stuff like that. I don't think they're helping out their extremely poor people. Another thing I did notice is that the standard of living, is it the living wage, standard of living, basically how much people get paid for their effort. So I talked to a dude back then, and I had a conversation about it, but on my page, and it was about this guy. He was from Chile, and the dude had what do you say, like, they make about $200 a month. That's a month, and that's a given if they work 40 hours and stuff like that. So it made me think about how now, if we know that, I learned from this from the idea that passports are not all equal, and also from this dude Eugene from the Try Guys. I seen his documentary involving Asians, and this was during that time when the spa shooter who shot up that Asian spa, and then the Stop Asian Hate movement happened, and they quickly got their rights quick, which is another topic in another day, because I'm comparing it to my minority group, which is like, we haven't got rights, but they got theirs like within a matter of months. But it made me think about I'm sorry, I just forgot. I can't remember it. But it made me think on another thought about how Asians, they kind of, is so weird. Now, even though Asians have assimilated into society and they just have generations of people in there, it's strange to me, for one, that people that they call themselves Asians, they're specifically East Asians. They're not South Asians, because those are Indians. They're not like what those Northern Asians. That's like Russia, right? As far as I understand. But these Asians, it's so weird to me, because it's a sensitivity, like, and I've had just kind of like negative experiences with Asians, just like for instance, if there was like a handful of Asians at this last place I was at, and I mistook her for another person who was Asian, because she was small, and the lady I talked to was small, but the lady I talked to was of authority, and they had big glasses like these, and I was like, "Hey, you're that lady, right?" She's like, "Did you just say that because I'm Asian?" And I said, "Oh, I'm sorry," and she just walked off. She didn't really like want to go through this. She didn't want to make this a learning experience. I mean, and you don't have to if you're offended on all that stuff. You just go through it. But I've seen, and I've tried to be understanding. So I searched up more things about East Asian, what they think about their experience, and they just seem to be very solid, have a lot of solidarity about their people and their group, especially with this movie, Everything All at Once. They're not saying it, but I can see it because black people have done this and has explicitly just kind of been forthcoming about it. I think that's something that I do like about black people, that we can be very we can admit when things are about something, so if it's about a race issue, we'll say it's about a race issue. But they're like, yeah, we support this movie, yeah, it's so great. And the only time that they actually do make it a race issues is on panels. And maybe that's something maybe we should do. Instead of saying, let's just have a discussion, how about we make these in-house discussions, and I think that's something we black people could learn from other groups, is that they have capital. They have developed capital, and so they have the means now. I'm not saying they fully have the means, but they are developing the means, and they are supporting their own content. But that's another question. I was like, why is it that Asians, despite having so much generational longevity in America, still get the immigration treatment? And I think immigration is I guess backpedaling what I said before, is like, immigrants that we have, immigrants have a lot of they tend to have some good benefits when it comes to this country compared to other countries that they come from. And America vets their immigrants, so they're not just giving I don't know, typical some name from another country, just anybody. You gotta pay to get over here. Not all passports are the same, so you have to prove your kind of your legitimacy. It's almost like you're guilty to prove your innocence type deal. And after you prove yourself, because ironically, if you didn't notice, American passports have a high standard versus other people's passports. It was just shocking to me when someone told me that, and I did a little bit of research, and it was like, wow, they're right. If they look at my passport, they're like, yo, all right, you good. But if they look at somebody else's passport and they're from another country, they're like, what are you doing here, bro? What's going on? So that's discrimination. That's pretty shocking. But it's surprising to me that that they, despite the longevity that East Asians have in this country and how much they contributed, I think that's what I was trying to say. Especially from the Eugene dude from the Track Guys, when he talked about how long and how, like, the miners and stuff like that, I think they were miners. Oh no, railroad workers. Ain't that a tongue twister? How much they've put so much skin in the game of American history, yet they still get treated like a minority. And forgive me, I'm sorry, they still get treated like an immigrant. Like, this perpetual perception that they have is like, yo, but another weird thing is that, and maybe it's just like a classist thing, that they just want to be around money, but you see them around whites. And another thing is just the weird sensitivity about their own race. I'm like, I'm not telling you, I should say, accept accept what you have. Not accept what you have. Accept your race. Stop being so insecure about your race. That's one thing I see. You think it's hard also being black out here? It is. It's hard. Especially as a Christian, you expect to have the same treatment as a Christian to other Christian groups. That don't always happen, especially if you're a minority. And it sucks but that's just how communities in general are. It doesn't, regardless if it's a religion or not. You have to prove your worth in these community groups. And if there's anything I wish I could say is, stop. It's great that you guys want to build and have capital and have recognition, like the movie Turning Red, that's out. That Everything All at Once is coming out. I'm about to watch that because that seems pretty dope. What was her name? Leela something? I can't remember, but I've seen her before. In some movies, so she seems pretty dope. And the idea of time travel seems pretty dope. Not time travel, multiverse theory in this movie seems pretty interesting. Yeah, it's just accept who you are. Like, okay, I learned from Kento Bento, this YouTuber named Kento Bento, about monoliths. Like, you know how when Asians that got the eyelid that it droops over a little bit, not droops over, but it's just not the same as mine. Like, so you see, like, you know, it's like it's almost as if like it's like shut like that, and it folds over. It's a monolid. What I have is a what's a double eyelid. So I won't have that. But the thing is, that's not something to be ashamed of. That's something you should be happy about, proud of. But not sit here making that jokes at you're at other people's expense. And that's something I really don't like about immigrants and conservative and suburban environments, is that they are the butt of jokes occasionally, and especially, I'm gonna be blunt, some of these white people, they make jokes at your expense, yet you still want to assimilate and you still want to be accepted in their society. Even though people like that shooter in that spa, he said he was battling temptation, and that was one of his ways to battle temptation. Sounds like a fetish to me, an Asian fetish. So, and that's another thing. That's one thing I gotta say. Stop discriminating against blacks. And another thing is, if you're gonna be in some of these black neighborhoods because the property value is low, actually get to know us as people. And at the same time, I get it. Those places are dangerous, and they got some ignorant folks over there. But not everybody's ignorant. You know, sometimes get to know the people. It's almost like Do the Right Thing, with that Spike Lee joint. He was saying, I wish I could go where my own is, but it's more competitive over there. In other words, it's more expensive to be over there. So, and he said, I helped out, I feed the streets and stuff like that. But then as soon as he had an issue, he was cussing people out left or right. So it just shows how, dude, you just did this for economics. It's good to say that you help the community, but dude, if we weren't giving you money, you wouldn't be here. If you had a better deal over there, you'd be over there. So that's one thing I'll say about like a lot of these minority groups, and even whites and even blacks. Just stop doing this this weird thing where you want our money, but you don't want our humanity. You don't want our people. You know, I think this, like Wu-Tang Clan, I think, and RZA, you know RZA, that dude loves Asian culture. He loves Asian culture. I think, like, some years ago, the dude tried to play as an old Asian dude, and the man with the iron fist, he tried to play as pretty much a Yasuke figure. If anybody know who Yasuke is, he was a African dude who was enslaved from the Spanish Jesuits, and then taken to Japan, and one of the what the heck, it's not the overlords. I don't know if he was a shogun at that time, but he was one of the prominent leaders in Japan before it was unified, Nobunaga Oda, and he accepted him into his ranks, even though and that's a whole different story. And you know, Japanese people can be in terms of the nationalism, so they didn't really respect him like that, and you know, he got banished. But that's another story in and of itself about Yasuke. But I'm just saying that not every black person treats you like a fetish. Not every black person, like for instance, Slice and Rice. Don't know why they came up with that name. It was catchy and she was okay with it. But I'm like, they're a perfect representation as to why you know, black people can be very fond of Asian people, and they can be interested in your culture. If the person's watching this is an Asian person, I understand. Hey, we wanna get to know you too, you know. But the thing is that, you know, give us a chance. That's something I gotta say. Give us a chance. And B, stop thinking that these white people are just like angels or gods or something. Like, I know people aren't going to the extreme, but like this fiending for their acceptance does seem like it. It seemed like you're fiending for their acceptance, like they're a deity that needs to be pleased. Like, no, they're people. They're regular old folks. There's like, you keep doing that, and you're gonna get yourself into a lot of heartbreak, believing that some of these white people are, and again, some of them, in the same way, some of your own people, and that's something I've had to learn myself, is that, yo, people are people. Stop deifying a certain people group just because you see them in movies. You see them walk in slow motion with their hair flowing in the wind in movies. Stop saying that, you know. Or you see the everyman, even though it's typically a white man in a movie, because that's not every man. That's a white man playing as a average Joe. But that average Joe isn't every man or an average Joe, you know. I just use that as a way for you to understand what that he's trying to play as a common person. His personality might be just like kind of white bread, kind of plain, you know. But my point is just like, these are people, and as soon as you stop deifying them, stop deifying gender, stop deifying even your specific differences, or even disparage those differences, understand like you're a person. You should be appreciated as you are, and that you should strive to be the best version of yourself. And don't get me wrong, I've had these views for a long time, but I still had to battle my own prejudices, my own ignorances. That's just me being honest. I have to work on myself too. But if I don't get a chance from people that I interact with because they have a preconceived notion about me because I'm black, you're not giving me a fair shake either. How can I give you a fair shake if you're not giving me a fair shake? So, like the person from Sensitive Society, maybe he's a conservative and maybe he hangs around with a lot of white people. That's my guess because of his views, because a lot of white people share those views. And ironically, a lot of conservatives, they're low-key ignorant. They're like low-key ignorant about other races and cultures and ethnicities. And they wish it could go back to this, if I could be blunt again, that it was just like all this homogenous white society, even though since America's inception, it's never been that way. It's never been that way. Even when they came, the 13 colonies were established, they had Native American neighbors. It was never a homogenous white society. So I say another thing is kind of shout out to Britain, because it seemed like they're a bit more progressed. Even though I have a thing about Britain, I'm not saying I have a thing against Britain, but sometimes they can be real, real class acts, if you know what I mean. But I still appreciate them because they have moved ahead of their society. That Arab immigrant problem, where they enter into their country and they don't care about respecting the culture, when they escape and sought asylum into Britain and the UK and stuff like that, that's a whole different story in and of itself. But I think parts like Britain is a good example of leaning too hard to be accommodating. It's one thing to say, okay, we could accept people. It's another thing to be like, okay, we accept anybody, regardless of how they act, regardless of the weird things that they do. And that's not against Arabs. I'm sure there's Arab people who are nice folks, but when there's a people group that, and forgive me, I am being ignorant right now, but just based off what I've seen, some of those groups are not very accommodating to assimilating. And I guess to have a balance, maybe you should assimilate a little bit, but don't assimilate all the way to the point where you don't respect the place you're at. That would be like me, a black person, having a black zone, a black space where Asians in Japan, like if I moved to Japan and I had a black space where Asians weren't allowed, that's just stupid to me. The same as when the Chinese now are going to black places and they're not accepting black people. That's just not cool. You're going into a different place. Respect the different place that you're at. So yeah, I guess that's what I want to say at the end. Just you can have your views. Just be very conscious and mindful of who you are, where you're at, and not to assimilate too hard. Assimilate a bit. Because you need to respect the culture, but don't assimilate like, I'm gonna be white, I'm gonna be this culture. I'm like, you might never be that. But America is kind of unique because anybody can be an American. You come here, you respect the laws, you honor the system, or honor the people, or honor the society. You pay your taxes and stuff. You're considered an American pretty much, in my eyes. Especially if you got your citizenship, you're an American. If you're naturalized, you're an American. You can't say that for other cultures. You can't say that in Japan. I can't go to Japan, live there for 20 years, and consider myself Japanese. I might be even if I get a Japanese national citizenship, I wouldn't be Japanese. I wouldn't be Chinese if I did that. If I went to China or parts of China, I wouldn't be Taiwanese. I wouldn't be an Afghani. I wouldn't be any of that. I don't even know if I'd be a British person if I stayed over there like that. I'd be an American. They know right away from my accent that I wouldn't be a British, or forgive me, not British, but someone from the UK. But that's my point. I guess tell me your thoughts. I don't. Who knows? That's just my thoughts right now. Maybe Sensitive Society will get back to me, but maybe not. But I hope my points were well understood. I don't want to say I hold prejudice. I don't hold prejudice for people. I just don't like when people or a culture, including my own, is inconsiderate of people around them, and I don't like that. And I don't like it when the surrounding culture is inconsiderate of the people around them. And I don't like it when people have to sacrifice their own identity to conform to a culture. None of that is acceptable or appropriate to me. So, all right, that's it.